We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends. If you want to donate to this College Football Rebel Outpost channel, hit the $, make a comment, and I will get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Everybody is welcome on in to the studio that sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room, with your phone calls later in the show. It is Saturday night. It's not quite Saturday night, but Saturday is all right for PATC. Welcome on in, everybody. Continuing the saga, the ACC drama inside the Holy Smokes Theater. We have here at Peek Around the Corner, we have left ourselves open to criticism. You kind of do that naturally when you do this every day. But in this particular case, I will admit, we have left ourselves wide open for criticism. So I expect it to happen from all corners of college football discussion. and I'm okay with that. What I am here to do is try to give you the most accurate peek around the corner when it comes to college football that there can be given. If you watched our live show yesterday, I told you there is some confusion out there. There is some people holding their breaths out there. And we're going to we learned here at Peek Around the Corner. Now, we learned a valuable lesson in the last 48 hours. Remember the rules of realignment we keep talking about here at Peek Around the Corner? The rules of realignment. First of all, realignment never sleeps. Relationships are important to realignment. There's a bunch of rules that we have laid out over the months, the couple years that we've been nailing the story here at Peek Around the Corner. There is one rule, one big rule, and I'm going to see if anybody can lay it down in the chat room before I talk about it later in the monologue. There is one big rule that we overlooked here at Peek Around the Corner. It's a rule we talk about constantly, but when it comes to this ACC saga, we overlooked it. And we were reminded of that here in the last 48 hours. In the Holy Smokes Theater, we're going to be hitting this story after we go through about, I think it's 7 pages, a new court filing yesterday in Pickens County. The ACC has filed an objection. We're going to go through that. That's a big story. We're going to go through that first, and then we're going to hit the Holy Smokes Theater. But the big news out of the Holy Smokes Theater is Petitti and Sankey are no longer in the theater. It doesn't mean they're not interested in what happens. It doesn't mean they're not keeping an eye on what's happening. It doesn't mean they're not interested, or in Big Ten's case, not having any interest in Florida State and Clemson. It's just a couple of reasons. One, we touched on yesterday. If it was up to the SEC and the Big Ten, they would love the ACC not to implode this year or even early next year. They want to have this season play out. They want to have this settlement play out. They want to have this congressional possible carve out to see how that plays out. There is too many moving pieces. They want to see how everything internally, they want to see how it plays out this year. The scheduling, the ratings, the sponsorship money. So if it was up to the SEC and the Big Ten, they would say if there was a pause button that they could hit, they would hit it. But it ain't up. It ain't solely up to the SEC and the Big Ten. What if Florida State and Clemson settles with the ACC in the next 3 months? Well, we're going to talk about it. What if that would happen? Because first of all, you got to understand the lay of the land, and we've gone over that real good. It's the process. It's the process that we at Peek Around the Corner, it looks like we made a big mistake. And because we made a big mistake, we today, this morning, when the cameras were not out there, when there was no reporters, we went to On Any Given Saturday Sportsbook that is 2 miles down on Kurt Gowdy Avenue, 2 miles down on Kurt Gowdy Avenue. This studio sits on the corner of Keith Jackson and Kurt Gowdy Avenue, and the Holy Smokes Theater is on Keith Jackson Parkway, about 2 miles that way. We went into the On Any Given Saturday Sportsbook and we tore down the odds once again. There is no odds up there when it comes to realignment, when it comes to the ACC. Not in Heisman City, not in the PATC community. I'll continue to say the SEC have circled their wagons around North Carolina. I will continue to say Florida State leans to the Big Ten. But the odds are no more. We have been told, we have been instructed, we relearn a lesson that we should not have forgotten about, that should not have forgotten about. We at Peek Around the Corner, we screwed up on the process. And we're going to explain that to you. And that affects everything. So, we're going to get to that. But we are first going to get to this very important ACC objection. Objection to Clemson trying to get that summary motion, that they're trying to get that judgment on their first clause of their amended complaint that Clemson filed in Pickens County, and the ACC is saying, no, 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 you cannot do that. Not on July 12th. You can't combine that with our motion to dismiss. There is no precedent for it. The ACC is saying no. We're going to cover that story first, and then we're going to circle back into the Holy Smokes Theater. Man, oh man. There is never a dull day. Josie is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Thomas is here. Marcus Williams is here. Expedition Greg, Mr. Spartan Anthony Carlson is in the house. Skaven, yes, yes. T-Ducks, R. Webb, John Peterson, Kyle Visser, Coy is here. Ted Evans, Mr. Husky, Tom DeBay. I'm actually catching this live. Fantastic. I'm glad you can make it in. T-Duck, Chad Bracey, the Immaculate One, Mr. Hawkeye is in the house. Bimba 75, 79, Michigan alum in the house. Go Blue. NRGTXN is here. He's actually, or she is, actually catching a live show. Let's go. Hell to the orange. Hell to the orange. Sounds good to me. David Kreitzer is in the house. Fighting Illini is definitely in the house. Humble, Bumble, Duck, Tracy FSU, Jared Jones, Mr. Buckeye, Minnesota Seminoles. Scott is here. RT is here. Steel Austin is here. Amy S. is in the house. Holy smokes. A lot of people arriving early on a Saturday. Jeff Morgan, Mountaineer, is here. Movie Time Blues. Movie Time Blues. R. Webb is here. Nitwit, Relationships and Contracts Matter. RT is in the house. J-Math is here. Cat's Claw. DP. J-Math 1978. Crab cakes in football. Lee is in the house. Okay, let's get this started. We did cover John Blah's Post and Courier article this morning in a Cloak and Dagger early peak episode from members. Not so fast, my friend. The ACC objects to Clemson speeding up South Carolina court case. Now, we covered that in an episode. If you are a member of this show, go watch it. When you have some time, go watch the episode. We break it down. But we're going to go ahead and go into the court documents here. For those who want to become a member, and if you haven't done so yet, go to the description below the video. Hit the link, hit the join button, and become a member, an early peak Cloak and Dagger member. But for this live show, we are going to go right into the state of South Carolina, Clemson versus the Atlantic Coast Conference. This is the latest filing. It happened yesterday. Objections to and motion to continue notice of hearing on plaintiff's motion for partial summary judgment. Again, on July 12th, we believe the judge is going to listen to two pleadings. One is the motion to dismiss, and that is coming from the ACC. They want this thrown out of Pickens County. They want to have it done in Mecklenburg County. The other pleading that will be going on July 12th is Clemson's motion for partial summary, the judgment on whether or not Clemson actually keeps their grant of rights if they leave the conference, the day they're no longer a member of the conference. Again, this is only 7 pages. We're going to be going through it as fast as we can, but it is important. The Atlantic Coast Conference objects and moves to continue the notice of hearing issued by Clemson University on May 30th, 2024. The notion of the hearing attempts to set Clemson's motion of partial summary judgment for the hearing on July 12th, 2024. It goes into some previous court cases on why the Atlantic Coast Conference is objecting to this. It goes into the background. Clemson filed a complaint against the ACC on March 19th, 2024. The ACC accepted the service of process on March 19th and then was required to file an answer or other responsive pleadings by May 2nd. The stipulation specifically reserved and did not waive any jurisdictional defenses by the ACC. On April 17th, 2024, about a month later, Clemson filed an amended complaint which added new allegations and claims and extended the ACC's obligation to answer or plead to May 7th, 2024. On May 7th, 2024, the ACC filed a motion to dismiss. On May 22nd, this court, Pickens County Court, set for the hearing of the ACC's motion to dismiss and a related motion to seal for July 12th, 2024. In the email setting this matter for the hearing, this motion to dismiss on July 12th, according to the ACC, The court requested to be notified if there were going to be any other matters the court should be aware of. Neither party notified nor alerted the court about other matters that would be addressed at the hearing on July 12th. 8 days later, however, 8 days later on May 30th, Clemson filed a motion for partial summary judgment and issued a notice of hearing on the motion for July 12, 2024. Thus, Clemson proposes to hear a substantive motion on the merits of its first cause of action in the amended complaint in the same hearing as the ACC's motion to dismiss. And as of this date of this motion, Clemson has yet to respond to the ACC's motion to dismiss. So what the ACC is arguing is July 12th, that date, that hearing should only be about our motion to dismiss. Clemson hasn't even responded to our motion to dismiss. We haven't even been given the ability to look at their response to gather up for our hearing on July 12th. The argument, the notice of hearing on a motion for partial summary judgment is improper. Again, partial summary judgment is about Clemson wanting a ruling on their first cause of their amended complaint. They want a ruling if Clemson, the day they're no longer a conference, do they own their grant of rights or not? Do they have control of their rights? Or does the ACC continue to control them up until 2036? Or if there's a settlement, obviously. We're not going to go through the whole argument because we can sum it up quite clearly. The ACC, according to the ACC, has not found a single published appellate opinion in which a court ruled on a motion of summary judgment before the defendant filed an answer. Not one time. Clemson hasn't even filed an answer on the ACC's motion to dismiss, and now they want this motion of summary judgment to happen on the same day as the motion to dismiss. It's never happened. Nor has the ACC found a single published case in which a trial court decided a motion for summary judgment during the same hearing and addressed a motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. In short, the notice issued by Clemson and its attempt to have its dispositive motion heard along with the ACC's motion to dismiss and before an answer is ask this court to do something that has never been done or at least reported. That is about as clear as it can be. And then most of these pleadings, all these pages, are giving examples of why this is improper. In conclusion, permitting Clemson to proceed forward on a substantive motion that is unilaterally noticed will deprive the conference of its opportunity to contest jurisdiction or its right to file an answer and make its own claims should the court hold that there is jurisdiction and the opportunity to oppose Clemson's motion on substantive grounds. The ACC respectively submits that doing so would be error. The conference requests the court sustain its objections to Clemson's notice of hearing or continue the notice of hearing indefinitely unless and until the appropriate procedural time arises. So there it is. Pretty clear. I don't know how this is. I don't know what the judge is going to decide on, but it's pretty clear what the ACC is, what their objection is. They've already started this process, this motion to dismiss. The hearing was scheduled for July 12th. Clemson hasn't even filed an answer back to the ACC's motion to dismiss. And now suddenly, out of nowhere, July 12th is also the date for the partial summary of judgment that Clemson wants in this case. And the ACC saying that is completely improper. So, are we on July 12th? Are we still going to have both of those still going on in that hearing? The motion to dismiss plus the partial summary of judgment? Are both of those things still going to happen on July 12th? We'll find out. If they both are still going to happen, if the judge rejects this motion, this objection, July 12th is going to be a very impactful day, regardless of however it goes and the judgment that follows, whether it be a week after, 2 weeks after, or maybe even on that July 12th. I don't know. I do not know. Pretty crazy times. Okay, let's get to the Holy Smokes Theater. Again, thank you all for joining us here at Peek Around the Corner on a Saturday, late afternoon or early evening for some of you. We'll get you phone calls. We'll get you comments. This is a pretty clear-cut show. We're talking about what happened in Pickens County yesterday. And we're talking about what has just happened in the Holy Smokes Theater. Let me make this perfectly clear. This ACC drama in no way resembles what happened in regards to USC and UCLA. It is not the same in any way in what happened with Washington and Oregon. It is not similar to what happened with Texas and Oklahoma. It's not the same. So people keep comparing what is happening with this event that is going on in the ACC with other stuff. It doesn't work. Washington and Oregon were cleared and vetted by the Big Ten. The Big Ten knew when Washington and Oregon were going to be able to get their grant of right, when they were going to be able to get their media rights back. August 1st of 2024. Oregon and Washington had first-party talks with the Big Ten months before that August 3rd night of 2023. We at Peek Around the Corner reported to you that those first-party talks happened. On episode 52, we described Oregon's talks with the Big Ten. We knew the talks happened. Washington, D.C., New York City. We knew that the Big Ten wanted to get Oregon and Washington before they eventually go to the Southeast. Completely opposite of what most people were saying. But we knew that the Big Ten they felt that they needed to go west again before they eventually go to the Southeast. We said that Kevin Warren had to leave his office. He did. We told you that the Big 12 was going to have to be able to poach the Pac-12 more than Colorado, and they were just about to on August 3rd and 4th. That opened up the doors. The legal counsel of the Big Ten had to approve the final talks between the Big Ten and Washington and Oregon. When USC called the Big Ten, it was before March 31st. It was March 31st that we had the goods and we reported to you. And we reported to you during the spring and early summer of 2022. This is completely different. There has been no school. And I don't care. You can rake me over the coals. Go for it. Go for it. That's what I'm here for. But there is no school. And it's not a shot against any school. I'm just telling you what it is. There is no school that is cleared and vetted by the Big Ten other than Notre Dame. It doesn't mean they're not going to be. It doesn't mean there's not interest. There is no school that is cleared and vetted by the Big Ten other than Notre Dame. As of June 15th, there is schools that were on the candidates list of Kevin Warren. The same schools are on the candidate list of Tony Petitti. There's your North Carolina. There's your Virginia. There is your Florida State. There is their Miami. There is their Clemson. There is your Kansas. This has been reported on in public. Google it. And there was Stanford in California. But there is no school that is cleared and vetted because there's been no way to have those meaningful discussions with those schools. Commissioner Jim Phillips, in a recent meetings with his fellow commissioners, reminded all of them, you cannot have direct talks with my universities in this conference when it comes to conference affiliation. They're going to call you, but you cannot have direct talks. And of course, the other commissioners said, absolutely, we will not. There hasn't been these first party talks. I don't care how many, I'm going to be gentle here. I don't care how many times it's said. I don't care who's reporting it. I don't care how many YouTube channels are saying it. I don't care. We've got people out there who mock the idea that Oregon was cleared and vetted by the Big Ten. They mock that. Those are the same people who are now insisting that there are schools other than Notre Dame that are cleared and vetted by the Big Ten. They get it wrong every time they turn around. There is none of that has happened. The Big Ten Legal Counsel will not allow it. Okay. Here's the thing. And I said it earlier, and we're going to hit more to it. If it was up to the Big Ten and the SEC, and it isn't up to the Big Ten and the SEC. They do not control the timetable on this. They don't. Nobody really does. The court system, the ACC, ESPN, they play a part in it. Florida State's playing a part in it. Clemson's playing a part in it. But no one entity has control of this thing. But if it was up to the SEC and the Big Ten, they would like for everything to get paused and see how this season plays out. See how the value is to the media partners. See how their ratings are. See how their TV schedule works. Sponsorship, signage, just everything. They would love to have this thing play out in Congress. Are they going to get a codification? Are they going to be protected? This settlement and codification from Congress, is all this going to work? The salary cap, the so-called salary cap, they would like for all this to play out, and then, okay, if the ACC implodes, see what happens. Reevaluate. But the SEC and the Big Ten, they don't control that, do they? So, what happens? Now, this is where PATC made a big mistake. And you've got to learn from your mistakes. You got to know the lay of the land, which we do, but you got to also understand the process, and that is where we made the mistake. Let's say, for example, July 12th goes pear-shaped for the ACC. Or something goes pear-shaped this week in Leon County. Whatever it is, we know, Florida State and Clemson willing to settle at a higher number than maybe a lot of us thought early. Maybe they do reach a settlement. Maybe it's even in private. Maybe there's a number out there that is the ACC is willing to give Florida State and Clemson the ability to leave the conference. And okay, let's just say it happens. Florida State has a chance, the opportunity, the window of time to leave the conference. They write a certain check. I don't know what that number is, but let's just say Florida State is given that opportunity. Let's say Clemson is given that opportunity. Be it a high number, be it a low number. This is what we got wrong here at Peek Around the Corner. We know, and we've known this for a long time, and we have been reporting to you this ever since the USC situation on March 31st, 2022. But ever since we've opened up this YouTube channel to share what we know, observe, have been told since August 10th, 2022, we have been telling you that after the Big Ten goes west again, and they did, they're going to go to the Southeast. That has been their plan, and it still is. And if they have to get what they need versus getting what they want, they will do that. None of that has changed. But what we had to relearn here at Peek Around the Corner is the following. There is a rule. There is a rule in realignment that has been true forever. It's true now, and it has been told to us in no uncertain terms in the last 48 hours by a couple of different people in the industry. And that is realignment, the next wave, will start with the biggest domino on the board. The biggest dominoes will fall or not fall first. So while either in public, and I will get you phone calls and everything, I promise. But while if there's a settlement in private or in public or however that happens, if we wake up tomorrow and there's a big news out there that the ACC decided to settle, think up your own scenario. Why we would believe at that time that the Big Ten would get meetings and first party talks for the first time with the Florida State, with the Clemson. Even before Florida State, definitely before Florida State and Clemson actually writes out their check. Remember, a settlement terms will have been, in this scenario, the settlement would have been happened, but not necessarily handing over the check. First party talks would happen between the Big Ten, the Florida State and Clemson. Probably would happen with the SEC, with Florida State and Clemson. While the Big Ten would rush into those meetings, there would be no talks of an agreement, no voting, no application, until the Big Ten and the SEC figures out what's going on with Notre Dame in North Carolina. We have been reminded of that here at Peek Around the Corner in the last 48 hours. Nothing has changed from my perception of North Carolina leans SEC, Florida State leans Big Ten. But the Big Ten is not going to rush to an agreement. They will rush to the meetings. They'll rush into first party talks. But they got to know. They got to let Notre Dame figure this out. They're going to let North Carolina, they're going to want to talk to North Carolina. North Carolina will give them the opportunity. North Carolina is going to have to present whatever the Big Ten and the SEC offers to the North Carolina Board of Governors. There may be a bidding war. The SEC have circled their wagons. People in the Board of Governors, the Board of Trustees, they lean SEC. We've been through all that before. But the Big Ten is going to turn over that rock once again, and they're going to have first-party talks with North Carolina. They're going to have first-party talks with Notre Dame. Once that settlement, once there is a pathway, once they know, these schools know the certain steps they need to do to leave the ACC. So that is the process that we got wrong. It is still valuable to Florida State and Clemson to be the first to be available. But if Notre Dame says to the Big Ten, we're gonna, ACC's falling apart, and we're gonna leave our football independence behind, or if North Carolina gives any inclination to the Big Ten that they're willing to work with them, so we have torn down the odds. We have torn down the odds on any given Saturday sportsbook. We are open to being criticized on that, no question about it. We are open to being criticized on forgetting the rule that the largest dominoes fall first. This is not a shot against Clemson, Miami, Florida State, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, Kansas. It's not a shot against any of those universities. They know their evaluations are. The number one criticism I get, and it's okay, is, Greg, you don't understand. Florida State would not be doing what they're doing unless they know exactly where they're going, exactly what they're going to get paid, exactly what their deal is. They would not have initiated the lawsuit unless they knew exactly what was going to happen. That is the number one of all the things that are told to me throughout every single day by many, 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 many people, as you can imagine. They're all great people. They've all got great reasoning. But as you can imagine, this is the one line that I get. Great, Florida State would not be doing this unless they know exactly how it's going to play out. And my answer to that is, that's incorrect. Florida State is doing what they're doing right now so they can find out what can happen. Because they don't know. They don't bloody well know. Neither does Clemson. They've got valuations. They know they hold value. They just do. But they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know the deal. I mean, my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, none of these, it's not the same. Oregon and Washington had first-party talks. Months. We reported to you. It was accurate. Oregon and Washington had first-party talks with the Big Ten. They were wanted. Fox wanted Oregon. And yet on August 3rd, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, they were hammering it out. How much are we going to get? Oh, we got to come in as a discount. Should we do it? Yes, we've got to do it. Bam. We're not even close to any of that with Florida State, with Clemson, with North Carolina. None of that has happened. That's not how it works. When USC called the Big Ten, before March 31st, there were talks. Bam, bam, bam. Once in a while, bam, 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 bam. And then about early May, there became real talks between USC, UCLA, and the Big Ten. Different type of talks than what happened before March 31st. We don't know the exact date, by the way, but it was March 31st was the day we reported it to the world. Then the real talks came in May, in June. And we kept getting, if you go back to my tweets, if you go back to episode 22, we break it all down. We show all the tweets that we had. Go back to episode 22. Long time ago, we did that episode. You see our tweets change. And we say this is a sensitive time. That's all we were allowed to say. I think it was June 18th, 12 days before it happened on June 30th. The talks were getting intensive. They got to talk, man. There's a lot to get through. And then it happened on June 30th. And during this May and June, in my tweets, when no one else was covering the story because no one else knew what was going on. I said it, and I was getting raked over the coals. I said, we gotten word on something. We got the word that USC had a whole lot of leverage, and they did. And that USC was going to come in as a full member, probably, unlike the other Big Ten schools, because they had so much leverage. And I really got raked over the coals by Big Ten people on that. It turned out to be true. But you don't get into the details of these deals. There's talk. You're talking, and then the last part of it is really intense. None of that has happened with Clemson and the SEC, with Clemson and the Big Ten, with Florida State and SEC, and Florida State in the Big Ten, North Carolina and the SEC, North Carolina and the Big Ten. There has been talks between Notre Dame and the Big Ten, and they've gone forever. I have recently, this morning, I believe, people sent me the old article in 22 or 23 about how Notre Dame name is in the Big Ten media contract. Yep. And the Big Ten, Notre Dame knows exactly what they would get if they joined the Big Ten. And it would elevate everybody's pay in the Big Ten. And Notre Dame is the only name that can be in that Big Ten media contract because they're an independent program and the Big Ten would not be violating any legal or ethical whatever when it comes to putting other schools' names into the contract. Notre Dame is the only school that is cleared and vetted and cleared right now. There's no other school. There's interest. There is a candidates list. There is no offer on the table. So, again, Florida State doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. They may end up with a beautiful deal in the SEC, a beautiful deal in the Big Ten. They might have to come in as a discount. They might have to be an independent program for a couple years. They may have to go to the Big 12. Probably not. But my point is this, is that nothing has been settled. Nothing has been determined because it's impossible for it to happen. It's not that Clemson and Florida State initiated the lawsuit because they knew exactly what was going to happen. Florida State and Clemson initiated the lawsuit so they could find out what the bloody hell would happen. I will remind you, in Clemson's own pleadings, the ACC has cast a harmful cloud of doubt on Clemson's ability to engage in meaningful discussions with other conferences and media providers regarding potential future collaborations and or to negotiate alternative revenue sharing proposals among ACC members. Florida State has said the same thing. Petitti and Sankey have walked. They're not in the theater anymore. If there is too much, there are too many moving parts. Too much they don't know. Too much that they possibly cannot know about what's going to happen in the next 6 months in college football. This story is dramatic. It's big. It's impactful. There is no reason to believe that Florida State and Clemson are going to be members of the ACC 3 years from now. I do not believe they will be. I think there's a very good chance they won't be ACC members 2 years from now. But there is still too many variables. In one big variable, and shame on me, is the part where the biggest dominoes have to fall first, or not fall, decide not to fall first. And that is Notre Dame and North Carolina. The process now is believed that if there's a settlement from Clemson and Florida State, they're going to have the advantages of being able to talk. But yet, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be looking at Notre Dame and North Carolina and see where it stands at whatever time Clemson and Florida State figures out a settlement. So that is what we're reporting to you here at Saturday, June 15th. It probably isn't what anybody wants to hear. And I'm going to get it. I'm going to get hit over the head 1,000 times. But that is what I'm here for. I'm not trying to be Mr. No. I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative. Clemson and Florida State have value. Of course they do. But this story is completely different than USC, UCLA. Completely different than Washington and Oregon. Completely different than Oregon and Texas. So when there's people reporting that everything is all buttoned up, it's all done, no way, no how. It is not. There have been so many presidential changes in the Big Ten, in the SEC, but mostly in the Big Ten. Relationships matter. There's relationship changes going on. UCLA is going to get a new president from Miami. Washington's going to get a new president. These are all going to be voting members. Just had changes, more changes at Ohio State. A new president in Minnesota. It changes in big changes at Nebraska. You've got Nebraska trying to, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but everything affects everything. And there's too many variables. So there is no odds on any given Saturday board. Now, I'm going to open up the phone lines. You can give me a call, talk about anything in college football that you desire. Monday, we're coming out with our Big 12 order of finish prediction. So you can tell, now this is your time to tell me, Greg, you better have Kansas State in the top spot. Greg, you better have West Virginia getting to the Big 12 championship game. Greg, Utah is the team to beat in the All-State 12. Greg, Cincinnati, you like Sorsby. Cincinnati should finish in the top half of the conference. This is your opportunity to let me have it, because Monday is 2 days away and we're going to be doing our show just like last Monday. We did a heavy breakdown of all 17 ACC schools. The running backs, the quarterbacks, the defensive coordinators, the schedule. We broke it all down. We're going to do the same thing with the Big 12. So buckle up, brace for impact. When you call in, talk about your Big 12 school, or talk about your SEC school, talk about your Big 10 school, and then let me know about this court pleading, the motion, the objection that ACC just filed in Pickens County yesterday, and then you can let me know what you think in the Holy Smokes Theater. Let me know that I got it all wrong once again, that everything's all buttoned up, ready to go. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now. Mark Bowman, how does the suitcase full of cash affect Florida State's strategy? That suitcase full of cash had to do with a certain meeting at O'Brien's restaurant, allegedly. A couple months ago, allegedly, with a private equity firm, allegedly, but we know. A private equity firm that has a major office in the city of Chicago, allegedly. And Florida State's all ready to go, allegedly. And again, I get back to the point. And O'Brien has, what is that called? Crispy green bean fries. O'Brien Restaurant on 45 East allegedly has those fries, allegedly. I don't want to be sued for being correct. So everything is allegedly when we talk about that. That has no effect on... That was not a... Florida State is... Florida State's done a lot of work. And again, it's a reminder that Big Ten and the SEC do not control the timetable on this. No one entity does. Probably not even the ACC. Thank you for the super chat, Mark. I do appreciate your generosity to the channel. John Till, Urban Meyer to Cincinnati. I don't know what that means, John Till. But I thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. I don't know anything about Urban Meyer to Cincinnati. I said Sorsby. Sorsby. The transfer quarterback from Indiana went to Cincinnati. Thank you, John Teal, for your super chat. I do appreciate it. We are going to open up the phone lines here. And let me know what you're thinking. I do appreciate you all coming Saturday, June 15th. College World Series is going on. 763-260-1333.
Call from ABO Prep Course.
Soap is on the line. How you doing, Soap? Thanks for calling.
You bet, Greg. I'm calling to gloat, my friend.
Uh-oh.
It was back around the time when we were talking about the head of the Big 12. Can you think of your mark? Charging more for the seats around at the basketball tournament, removing the seats from the press and charging more for them, a premium price.
Yeah.
That just was a couple of years ago. And I said at that time to you that I thought that I had actually heard someone talking about the fact that your mark had been involved with the Nextel Cup. It was his idea, or he was involved with NASCAR and the Nextel Cup.
Yeah.
And that, and I said, well, I bet you he could probably sell the naming rights to the Big 12. And I said that to you, and I got some big pushback from the members of the PAT community.
Don't listen to the PATC community. Come on now.
Although those are my brothers.
I probably gave you pushback as well. So.
Well, I really wanted to. When I heard that they actually started talking about it, I just had to give you a call. But Greg, I wanted to ask you about the admission time of Stanford, Cal, and SMU into the ACC, because I still think that there's a possibility that prior to their admissions, there could be some movement in the conference, some vote maybe on disillusionment of the conference. But I know that two come in on I think at the end of June and one at the end of July, or the other way. What is? I
think it's SMU July 1st, and I think it's California and Stanford on August 1st or on August 2nd.
Okay. All right. So we're looking, if that's going to hold true, we're looking at something within the next 15 to 45 days occurring. And this is the time of year that those changes have occurred. Realignment changes have occurred. I believe, I've always felt that Notre Dame was destined for the Big Ten. I think everybody has. But I thought Miami or Stanford would be their partner going in. And it makes just all the sense in the world that they would, if they're actually looking at moving, they would be the first ones to move. And nobody would do anything to hamper their opportunity to have Notre Dame in the fold, and they would wait for them to make a move. So this could be the time that Notre Dame decides to make that move before the start of the season. So that's my tinfoil on it. Greg, I wanted to call and say I got one right of all the crazy ideas that I have, and I still holding true to that the Big 12 will, or should I say the All-State 12 will be the first conference to have some type of upper division and lower division, where the lower teams would be pushed down to the poor teams would be pushed down to the lower divisions, and the good teams would be moved up. That's something that your Mark wants to do as well. Bring that.
Right. We'll see if you regulate your regulation, whatever you call it. We'll see if that comes true.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, Greg. Have a great Saturday. Best to the bride and your mom.
You got it. I do appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your kindness. Great call by Soap. Juan Carlos, we demand to be taken seriously. You are.
Call from
Mona Vision.
Moen Vision, Mr. Buckeye, the PATC World Trivia College Football Champion. He's going to have to defend that title. It's not going to be any time. Probably ain't going to be. I think next week's going to be a busy week. But at some point, everybody's got to pile in. The next time we have our trivia night, in the throne, the undisputed champion, Moen Vision. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Greg, I wasn't sure if I heard you properly. Are you saying no future big expansion without Notre Dame?
No, not saying that. Not saying that. You're saying that the Big Ten will rush in on talks, but will not be rushing in on any decision until they get a good time to evaluate what Notre Dame is thinking and what North Carolina is thinking. The big dominoes are going to be thoroughly investigated first, and then the rest will fall. I had to be retaught a lesson, so to speak. Shame on me. I'm open to criticism on it, but that is where we stand here on June 15th.
So no future considerations without Notre Dame.
No future expansion without future considerations from Notre Dame.
Gotcha. I just thought it was funny that I might actually be right for once.
Well, you've been right a lot. You are our world champion, number one.
That's true. Now, if we could just get Georgia Tech into the Big Ten and Syracuse into the Big 12, my God, I will look like the genius.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you ever going to be really a genius, Moen Vision? Huh?
Well, in my own mind, Greg, I perceive myself as a genius.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was about to take a shot at the Badgers, but I won't do that. Anyways,
you better not do that. The Badgers is killing it in recruiting.
Oh, who cares? Okay. This is my take on recruiting because I every year it's the same thing. It's stars matter, right? Stars matter. 5 stars matter. 4 stars matter. We know the math on it. The higher recruiting ranking you have, the better off you're going to be. Mathematically, historically. However, I went back and forth with Nebraska fans again because that seems what I do. Nebraska is hooting and hollering because their recruiting class is higher ranked than Minnesota. And guess what? Their recruiting classes are always higher ranked than Minnesota. It doesn't matter. They're always higher. They've been higher. They've been higher since 2014. But Minnesota has won over 20 more games than Nebraska since 2014. Minnesota has defeated Nebraska 5 straight years. So I'm going to tell you, Nebraska, it's cool that you're excited about your recruiting. I know you're talking about Wisconsin. I'll get to them in a second, Mona Vision. You got me all going now. Nebraska, it's cool that you're excited once again. Once again, you're excited. By the way, you're the last team to make a bowl game in the Power 5 conference. It's been 7 years. But it's cool to be excited. But when you have Cornhuskers comparing, our running back recruit is higher ranked than Minnesota's running back recruit or Iowa's running back recruit, so therefore we are recruiting better than you. No, you can't say that. You can't say that you're recruiting better than us. You can say you're high ranked, but you can't because we've been down this road over and over and over again. You can have 4 stars out your yin-yang, but you've been losing. You've been losing until you start winning, which should be what's important. Stop comparing your running back recruit to the Gophers or to the Hawkeyes because we've owned you. We have absolutely owned. Now, Wisconsin, the evil Badgers. Oh, they're recruiting. They're so great. There's whatever. I'm going to tell you something, Mona Vision. Are you listening to me?
I'm hearing you. But I'm going to tell you something after you tell me this.
You can tell me all that. Okay. I'm going to tell you something. Then you can let me have it. That quarterback they got this year, I'm not buying it. I am not buying it. I'm not buying Van Dyke. He's going to be at the very bottom at the quarterback rankings. He won't be a starter after game 4, game 5. And then they're going to lose these recruits, and it's going to be the Wisconsin Badger football program is going to be going pear-shaped this year. Van Dyke is going to ruin them. That's what I got to say. Mona Vision, let me have it, sir.
All right. Well, the first thing you got to remember is that Nebraska didn't have a coach. They had Scott Frost.
They had high rankings.
They had high-ranking recruits, but he couldn't develop them because he was a poor coach. And then you have a coach at Wisconsin and Luke Fickell who took a G5 team, the only time someone's taken a G5 team to the 4-team college football playoff, and he did it with Desmond Ridder as his quarterback because he built a strong defense. And I think that's what Fickell's doing at Wisconsin right now. He went out there and got that linebacker recruit. They nabbed that receiver. And, I mean, that receiver had offers from Georgia, and he chose Wisconsin. So that tells you the caliber.
Bring it, Badgers.
It tells you the caliber of guys that Luke Fickell is recruiting. And I know he will be able to develop them because he developed them at Cincinnati. So look out for the Badgers. I'm telling you, Greg, within the next 2 to 3 years, Wisconsin will be in the college football playoffs. I'm telling you. You got to pick thick. Pick thick. And that's what Wisconsin did. They got the best coaching hire. Nebraska is Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, we'll see how he plays this year. More interested to see where he looks like next year when he transfers out, because that's all the kid does is transfer, or change his mind, I should say, not transfer, change his mind. But look out for Wisconsin. I'm going to defend Wisconsin on this one. As an evil Buckeye, the evil Badgers are not to be trifled with. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people.
I have all the respect in the world for I love the freshman quarterback Dylan Raiola. I just don't think I don't happen to believe that Nebraska's offensive line is going to be able to keep them upright all this year. They're an experienced offensive line, and they've been lousy for the last 3 years, and they're all coming back once again. It's unfortunate that Minnesota doesn't play Nebraska this year, so we can beat up on that offensive line yet again. So that's my take on Nebraska, although I do have them going 8-4. Wisconsin, that Van Dyke, good luck. Good luck, Badger fans. Good luck out there. I'm telling you, watch Van Dyke's game against Middle Tennessee 2 years ago. Watch his game, watch any game from last year. He's a complete car wreck, and he's going to drive the Wisconsin Badgers into the Minnesota ditch this year.
You know what wins championships, Greg? Defense. And that's what Luke Fickell's putting together up there.
All right.
He's going to put together some monster defense. But,
all right.
Yeah, just I'm putting that out there, so when that comes true, just like this Notre Dame stuff, I'll look like even more of a genius in my own mind.
Got it.
And I will gladly defend my title, my PATC trivia title.
Yeah, so. Well, it's going to be hard. It's one thing to become the world champion. It's another thing to stay there. It's going to be hard to defend. Everybody's going to be coming after you. You're going to be under a lot of pressure. It's going to be very difficult, Monovision. Very difficult.
I will leave you with this, Greg. To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Got it. The Nature Boy has just left the building. Great call by Monovision, although I disagree with them. Absolutely disagree with them.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, can you just hold on for one moment, please?
Sure.
I do appreciate it. We got Morris Simmons. Thank you so much for your generosity. He's a new member of the Early Pete Cloak and Dagger. Holy smokes. Morris Simmons, Mr. Seminole here in the chat room. Morris, make sure that you catch go to our YouTube channel. You can see all the membership-only episodes. But we dropped one early this morning. I do appreciate your generosity. I do appreciate you coming on in, voicing your opinion in the chat room. You're a Seminole fan at heart. Thank you, Morris Simmons. You are hereby officially knighted Cloak and Dagger. Thank you so much, Mr. Simmons. Thank you for your patience, Immaculate. Mr. Hawkeye, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. No problem. Waiting. I had to call in, though. I had to follow Moen, my guy.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what he's looking at when he looked at Wisconsin and thinks he's going to have a good defense. That defense was terrible last season. Like, it could be better this year, but they kind of showed that they were going all in on offense. So it's going to take them a couple of years or so if they really want to start focusing on the defense to get that back in line as a proper former Big Ten West Division member. We'll see how that goes, though. Kind of funny seeing a Hawkeye and a Gopher agreeing on something. I don't know. It's a little I'm not sure about it. But look, I know there's a lot of talk about Raiola out of Nebraska.
Yeah.
Reality is he's a freshman.
Yeah.
He's a freshman. Like he could end up being an amazing talent that goes to the NFL. We'll see.
I
But
think he will.
for now,
Yeah.
he's a freshman, and he is going to get beat up this year.
He is. That offensive line's no good at Nebraska. That's the one unit that they're not going to be able to improve that much on, I believe.
No. Yeah. And he's going to find out real quick, like, when you have, but what they do have, I mean, their linemen are still big, right? They're still tall, and he's going to be in that pocket, and it's going to be coming in on them hard and quick, and he's not going to be able to see as much as he's used to seeing, and it's not going to be all catered to him like, the spring game or in practice, and it's going to come in on him. He's going to have a rough year, and people are going to think he's no good, and that's not going to be true. But I'm just saying, be careful going as much as 8-4 in Nebraska like you're doing. That one could turn upwards real quick.
Yeah, you're right, but you know how I am. When I fall in love,
I know.
it's over. And I have fallen in love with Dylan Raiola, even though he's a Cornhusker. I've fallen in love with his talent and their schedule. I've fallen in love with their schedule. Their first 7 games, they should be 6-1. And then they should be able to win a couple of long.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. But they could have. I'm just saying, though, depending upon a freshman, I tend to not think about how much experience they have.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. That week 2 game, prime time, prime time on the sidelines. I think I want to say that's an NBC game. Colorado.
Yeah, I believe it was on their preferred list. I don't know if that was actually decided upon yet.
Yeah. No, it's not actually decided on. But the earlier the games are in the season when they're on the preferred list, the bigger chance that it's actually going to happen. Because
it just depends upon how much like CBS wants it and Fox wants it. It's like turning in your list for fantasy, I guess, is the way it was explained by Mulvihill in his interview he did. And so they're not going to get all of those. But I think having that as a night game is very interesting. So I think that they'll probably get it. I don't know.
We're gonna learn a lot that game, man. We're gonna learn a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn this season. But I just wanted to touch real briefly upon the other stuff and then get out of the way here. In terms of everything going on, I know everyone's hearing what you're saying. Me personally, I'm not that surprised or shocked because, we think of our surprise when we found out that the settlement talks for the NCAA were going for 8 months going backwards.
Yeah.
Like we had no idea. I think during that time they thought they had everything lined up. They even had the plaintiffs ready to sign and say that they would support the NCAA's lobbying efforts, which have been going on for 5 years on this. So I think that they had everything lined up and ready to go. And just the way things have played out politically and whatnot, the situation in D.C. now looking a little iffy, questionable. I think they're going to get something passed, but I think they're just trying to get like maybe some small parts that will go into the bill passed just to make a statement. But I think that the timeline has maybe gotten a little more questionable to them. And so I don't think any realignment happens until we get certain things figured out. The settlement, maybe what Congress is at least looking like they're doing in the future, they have to get those NLRB cases figured out. I cannot stress that enough. I know I talk about it a lot, but every single private university in the game is going to want to know what those cases, especially the USC case, is going to be finalized as.
Yeah.
Like, you really can't make future plans without it. And look at how many private schools are in the ACC. They don't know, like, who are we still going to have? Who might drop out? who's going to want to move out of here, who's going to – I mean, they just need to have some answers. And I wouldn't want to go down to the settlement table and figure out a final settlement either if I was them. So without that, you're not getting anything finalized in the ACC, right? I mean, like, if you don't know who you're going to have, who's staying, who's going, what it's going to be, you can't figure that out. So I know to a lot of people, they're probably a little frustrated by what you're saying, but
yeah,
I don't really think that this changes a lot. I think this was largely the case, but I think they had, quicker expectations because they thought the whole settlement thing was ready to go, slide this through, boom, we're done, let's move, let's cook. And It's not looking that way right now.
No.
So I think that's probably what's got you. And so now they're going back to their old talking points, right? When you talk about UNC and you talk about Notre Dame, I know a lot of people don't like the Big Ten, and that's fine. But anyone that knows the Big Ten, when you said that, I just started to grin. I'm like, oh, so we're right back to where we were. Because
Yes, we are.
That's the old talking points of the Big Ten. The kind of the more conservative look at it, the more like, well, we know these will be good for us, so we're interested in this right now. So for anyone who's kind of wondering what that means, that's all that means to me is they've just kind of gone back to their safer position, and that could change. I don't know if you agree with that or not. If I'm just kind of talking on my butt here, but
no,
that's
the Big Ten's gonna make sure that they leave no rock unturned when it comes to the top two dominoes, Notre Dame and North Carolina. So they're not going to rush into a deal with Florida State and Clemson, which let's be honest, I've said that there was a chance of that because the Big Ten was going to get what they need if they couldn't get what they wanted. But I've been reminded that the Big Ten's going to first make sure to see if they can't get what they want before they go get what they need. So there's not going to be this rush of an agreement. Plus, there's a lot of work to do anyways. So Petitti and Sankey are not in the Holy Smokes Theater anymore. It doesn't mean that, Florida State and Clemson, they're going to still try to get out as quick as possible. Their availability is going to help them somewhat. But I'm just, we had to rip the odds down because too many variables for me to have odds up. I've been reminded.
Yeah, and to answer my guy Rockman in chat about a year ago with NLRB and adding new schools, he's right, but only one of those schools is affected by the NLRB situation, and that's USC. That's where the case actually is.
Yeah.
And they're going to a conference where this was already dealt with, where Northwestern had this exact same case put on them in 2015. They lost, and then they appealed, and the Big Ten went to bat for them. And what was the response when all of a sudden their appeal was accepted and approved? They said, we can't push this on Northwestern because they would have an uncompetitive situation in competing against Big Ten schools.
Yeah.
Because if you play against and they're not in their jurisdiction. So for USC, that helps them to be going to the Big Ten because there's already a precedent set by the NLRB that putting this upon them when they're going into the Big Ten would make an uncompetitive situation for them. Now, you probably could have said the same thing about the Pac, but the Big Ten was directly regarded in that previous case. So just for folks to look at it, I mean, this is a big deal for Notre Dame. They just had an NLRB complaint put on them.
Yeah.
So, if you're trying to decide upon, well, what's Notre Dame going to do? Well, they're probably also looking at, what's Stanford going to do? They're affected by this. They might be looking at, what's Duke thinking? They're affected by this. In terms of Rockman's team, Miami, they're affected by this.
Yeah.
There's a lot at play. So, I'll leave it at that. I'll get out of here and people can get back in on the talk about that. But I just kind of wanted to bring that up, folks, is this is frustrating, I'm sure. But if
Yeah.
they want to know where to look, just my opinion, watch these things. Watch for something coming out about these. I mean, it's not a coincidence that 3 of the committee members in the talks about the bill that looks like it's getting passed to the House as a whole all mentioned the NLRB. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, sir. Thank you for the call, Immaculate.
Have yourself a good one.
Beautiful.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant. Mr. Hurricane is on the line. The floor is yours.
And for the conspiracy theorists here, I didn't intend to follow Moan and Immaculate, just the way it worked.
That's fine.
So there's no UFOs above the skies here, maybe over Greg, but
yeah, go ahead.
So the first thing, just to comment on Wisconsin earlier, for all of the Badger fans and all those on hoping you're gonna have a good season, I just would encourage you to make sure that like Tyler Van Dyke doesn't have a girlfriend, and you'll probably be in much better shape.
Was that the problem? I tell you, something was the problem.
That's the thing, and what, in his defense, he had 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years.
Yeah.
It's hard for anybody.
Yeah.
But
some of those throws, man. I mean, and I even mentioned it. Like some of those throws, I couldn't blame Gaddis 2 years ago. I couldn't blame Cristobal. I couldn't blame the coaching staff. Some of those, he would look down at he would look at the receiver that he's going to the whole time, and then he would still make the throw, and the guy was covered to be picked off, and I'm like, and sometimes he overthrew a lot. I thought there was an injury. Yeah. I'm not.
There was definitely injury.
Huh?
I would say it's a mix of things.
Okay.
I think everything can't be one thing, right? Like,
yeah.
I think that he played hurt for sure. He played through some of that, and I think he had some offensive coordinator stuff. And then there's the rest, like what's going on in your head. And, you get too comfortable with just one receiver, and there was a lot of complaints about him being roommates with Restrepo, and that was the only reason why Restrepo was good. Those are sort of dispelled when Restrepo still had 17,000 catches playing with Ja'Cory Brown, and then instant chemistry with Cam Ward. But, so I don't know if he's healed. He has the right offensive coordinator, knows how to do it, and he's in the film room and paying attention as much. Like there's more optimism there. If not, then it's going to be a longer season than people anticipated for them.
Where did Ja'Cory Brown go to? I forgot.
UCF.
Oh yeah, he's backing up. He's backing up KJ Jefferson. That's right.
So which is probably a good fit for him ultimately.
Yeah, and I thought I don't want to rip on the young man, but I'm just not feeling it for Ja'Cory Brown. So when Miami was aggressive in the portal and waited and see if they could get Cam Ward, and it looked like Cam Ward was going to the draft, but no, he didn't. He went to Miami. For all the times I pick on Mario Cristobal, that was a good moment for him.
Absolutely. I mean. Yeah. With Ja'Cory, I think, listen, I think he has every right to try to see if he could find the right fit that makes him be in a good position as a quarterback. He's a tremendous athlete. He would be one of those guys if we did one of these random polls of 5 players playing in college football that will be in the pros in a totally different position. He would be on that list kind of guy.
Yeah.
If he ever split off, but we shall see. So that digression real quick, I don't want to pick up with all Wisconsin talk, but I don't have an issue with anything you're saying. I guess my thing is just the framing of how you're saying it, in the sense of, forget about timelines. That's not really about a Miami thing to me. It's everything to me that you talked about on who's on the stage in one shape or another is always with the caveat that starts with that all these conferences are going to call Notre Dame first in every single sequence, every single time.
Yeah. And
in Big Ten's case, North Carolina, right? So the only thing I might argue with you is that, hey, it's less that Notre Dame was like hanging out in the wings on the side stage of the stage as much as like they were the main star and the understudies have been playing. And anytime the main star injury went away and they wanted to go back on center stage, even if they were about to give flowers and crown a new king, if they said, hey, I'm back, they were going to be first.
Yeah.
So every sequence we've talked about almost has this whole thing ahead of every single show you've done.
Yes.
That says, they're going to go to Notre Dame first. So right now,
Yes.
it's Florida State and Clemson are on the stage, and they're ready to go, and the Big Ten is going to, go fast. But the caveat was, assuming that Notre Dame doesn't pick up the phone this time too. And then
everything you're saying is absolutely correct. But to be fair, I did not really make that caveat clear in the last few times I've talked about it. In other words, so we're going to correct that error of mine, not of yours and not of everybody else. It was my error. This really, the domino, that part of it, like you just said eloquently, was always there, looking at the big Notre Dame and North Carolina first for the Big Ten. But I really made this into Notre Dame, Big Ten's going to rush the stage, get those meetings. Florida State, Clemson are the favorite, the chalk to go to the Big Ten. I put it up on the sports book. We had to tear that down because the variable of the Big Ten, even willing to wait, not make any agreement, make sure they check everything out with Notre Dame, everything out with North Carolina. If that loses them, Florida State and Clemson to the SEC, that could be the result of it. But I cannot have any odds up on the board because of what you just said. And it had to be re-put into my brain from a few people in the industry saying that the Notre Dame, North Carolina domino, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to first want to know where those drop before we can get into the Florida State, Clemson, the Miami, everything, all the other pieces to it. Those two have to either drop or everyone's got to know that they're not going to drop, but those things have to be figured out first. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with that, but those are also, I would say the following. Let's say that something dramatic happens in July 12th, and it's really clear that people are available. One, as much as Sankey and Big Ten guys, the names escaping me at the moment, are all buds on arranging everything, they're also cutthroat. And the minute that there's chum in the water and they figure out they have to eat or be eaten, it doesn't really matter if they want to pause. Like, they're going to do what they need to do should the situation change. But let's play it out that way for everyone who's freaking out on Florida State and Clemson side in the chat and basic, and I'm actually coming on your side in 2 seconds, so don't worry, I'm not about to slam on everyone. So let's say that Big Ten gets Notre Dame and North Carolina, everything changes and the SEC lean doesn't go away. You still actually haven't achieved what the Big Ten national picture that they've been talking about or has been alluded to or rumored to of dipping into the Southeast effectively. You're still out of 2 of the top 3 population states. So then, were you then saying that the whole Southeast thing was a mirage as long as they got North Carolina, and granted Notre Dame is basically gets you into quote unquote every state in some fashion, right? Some less than others, that they were going to stop there. That's still not a Southeast profile. That's North Carolina as your most South thing by definition has North in it. It's not that South, and you're still out of 2 of the top 3 states. So it might just change the timing and the sequence. But I still don't think it's a 9-year delay suddenly. And also, to be your defender there, just because you don't shout all the time about certain things doesn't mean you didn't say it. I am sure if we use the wonders of AI in 2024 and the transcript link for every one of your episodes, that at least 2 times a show you said, first they're going to go check the Notre Dame, going to see if North Carolina, they'll talk us, they want to go to the SEC. So that's just my only take. I don't know that it fundamentally changes. Like, maybe the odds timing of when they're going to accept the bets in your proverbial scenario gets delayed. And Notre Dame call is what? Hey guys, we have an opportunity to expand, but before we did that, we want to call you guys. Is that like a 6-month conversation? No, it's like a 16-minute introductory call. Do you want to have a further conversation or not? Maybe North Carolina's a little bit more complicated with the board of governors and stuff, but this still would be put on the clock, just like anybody else would. So that's just my take on what you were saying. I don't see as much of a big change as others are, or the freak out that some might be, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Beautiful, Rock and Rant. Thanks for your great call, explaining it, making it more clear. I appreciate it, sir.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
You got it. Mr. Hurricane, rock and rant. And my main message today, other than Petitti and Sankey are not in the Holy Smokes Theater, is that nothing has been determined. Nothing has been settled. No agreement, no offer. The Fox and the Big Ten presidents have talked, but just hasn't happened. And it won't happen until.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole is on the line. The floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, sir. How you doing?
Doing good. A lot of rain here in Minnesota today. It's been raining nonstop.
Yeah, well, what's the temperature there?
Let's see here. I'll check it out right now. Hold on. The temperature is 65 degrees and it's raining.
I heard they're about to go through a heat wave in Great Britain. They're freaking out that it's about to be 79 degrees.
Yeah.
It was 98 with about 80-90% humidity where I am today. Thankfully, it hasn't rained yet, but it's cooled off. So I say 98. That was the temperature that my truck had registered. So
Wow.
That could have been some of the heat off the pavement. So, yeah, it's rather uncomfortable. But anyway, well, just rest assured, I am not disappointed by your reporting at all. I heard. I actually tried to call into your show. I've been so slammed with work and other stuff lately. It's been kind of hard for me to call in, but there's been multiple times I've tried. I just couldn't get through. And I think most of us, most all Seminole fans were rational. We can believe something to be true, but if it's not, it's not. Now, after listening to your show yesterday, I even posed a question to Regal Knoll today on the chat, and he just more or less was saying nothing has changed. And so we'll see. I don't know. Now I will play along here with me here for a second, being devil's advocate. Okay, let's just say you're a commissioner, and this is going to go against everything that you believe. Okay, I'm just saying, just play along. Let's say you're Tony Petitti, and there's been third-party talks going on behind the scenes, and you're somewhat close or very close to pulling the trigger on some of the ACC targets that are out there. But the ACC targets have to wiggle themselves loose. Let's say they do. Let's just say FSU. I'm not even going to say Clemson. Let's just say FSU this summer did announce, and they had a way out. Mm-hmm. And you had been talking third party, and behind the scenes, the Big Ten had given you a wink and a nod. Wouldn't you start putting stories out there to potentially distance yourself from that situation? And I'm not saying that's going on. I'm saying is, I don't know what necessarily to believe for sure, because the FSU sources that are suggesting that there's going to be an announcement this summer. Mm-hmm. Some are even saying within the next 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm not in those. I'm not an insider. I just know some insiders. That's it. I'm not one. But there's just they did say that they expect it to get a little more chaotic between now and the time. I don't even know what that means. But I appreciate the fact that they aren't talking as much of riddles, and they're putting out specific timelines. And we're going to know. We're going to know either in the next few weeks or at least the next 6 weeks, because it's already summer. And if there's going to be an announcement this summer, we're going to hear it. And if there's an announcement this summer, we're going to know that some of the stories floating through the media were either misdirection, plausible deniability, or circumstances changed on a dime. And then there'll be more conspiracy theories. I don't know. I'm not going to doubt your sources, and I'm not even necessarily saying one thing's going to happen or the other. I'm just saying it's a very interesting time. A very interesting time. And
it is. And I'm not going to spend time, there's a lot of smart people out there talking to a lot of people who are saying the complete opposite of what I'm saying.
Sure.
So,
but if you end up being right, you end up being right. And the thing is that, I just want to get out.
Yeah, I know. Now, and people can take this however they want to take it, but I do know that I've been told that the commissioner, Jim Phillips, did have a conversation with the commissioners saying that you cannot be having direct talks about conference affiliation with the universities in the ACC. And the other commissioners said, you got it, no problem. Now, this was after the fact that I had been told 1,000 times that there are no first-party talks. Legal counsel of the Big Ten would never allow it. So that I am the most confident in. That Florida State has no ability. They know they're on the Big Ten candidate list, but they know that they've been given what people be giving them their evaluations of what Florida State would be worth to the Big Ten, what they'd be worth for the SEC, and those numbers are good. And Clemson has done the same thing. But I will stand on the ground of Florida State has no idea what is going to happen. They don't know. They don't have any promises. They don't have any offers. It just doesn't work that way. They want to find out what they can get. And that's why they're pretty confident in themselves. But that's why they're doing what they're doing.
Well, I'm very appreciative, and I appreciate everything you're saying. And like I said, you may very well be right, and I'm not saying you're not. I appreciate the people that would disagree with you.
Yeah.
They're at least saying, "Hey, you're going to know soon," and so it's on them now. They've drawn the line in the sand.
And I will take the if Florida State either. Okay, here's all the opportunities of myself taking the big L at Peek Around the Corner. If Florida State files a notice of withdrawal on or before August 15th, I'm going to take the L. If Florida State, if there's a settlement, I'm not going to take the L because that could happen. But if there's a settlement and Florida State becomes a Big Ten member within like a couple days because everything was settled on, I would take the big L, right? Because those are things that I do not believe are not going to happen. So there are opportunities. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I'm just saying I made it perfectly clear. There are things that, so it's not just on the Florida State insiders that, what the Florida State insiders, because I have been, I've got people sending me stuff of them. I know where a lot of them what they're saying. It isn't what we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. So we're going to find out here. But I am most assured that Florida State does not have a location of where they're going, how much money they're going to make in the deal. None of that has been decided on. It's just it's not how it works. So I do understand there's a lot of Florida State insiders who are saying the opposite of that. So we'll find out.
Well, even, let's just say, even if they did, and this is me speaking, this isn't anybody else speaking. Let's say they did announce in a few weeks or later this summer or whatever. I just feel like it's hard to announce a destination like back to back. You following what I'm saying? So I don't know that we'll ever know. I think it would rather be the appearance, again, devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
If something had been worked out behind the scenes, I don't think even if that was the case, that's not the way anybody would want it to appear. And so I don't know that you'll ever get an answer on anybody would ever get an answer on that. But so what I'm saying is that you won't have to take an L, because if Florida State announces and can get clear, and there's a few angles on how that could go, and I'm not going to go into it all again because I would have to put my tinfoil hat back on, and it's too hot for that today. But yes, sir. So there's just a lot of different things, but I haven't been able to call in as much. I didn't want you to think that you've been hurting my feelings on some of the pushback or hurting for some FSU fans' feelings, because what's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether anybody that I follow is correct or whether you're correct or whatever. I mean, that doesn't matter. And we're all just trying to read the tea leaves. One thing I did hear yesterday, and I was able to hear half of yesterday's show, and one thing I do disagree with you on, when you were saying that you don't believe ESPN, or do you believe ESPN's going to pick up the option, but there might be a few changes to it? That's not picking up the option. Picking up the option is leaving the exact deal in place. The current deal as is picking up the option.
Yeah.
A renegotiation is a renegotiated deal. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the ESPN will have a deal in place with the ACC to continue distributing their content beyond 2027, and there's probably going to be look-ins built into that just in case something else happens. I don't think ESPN's going to drop the ACC entirely.
I don't either.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't disagree with anything that you said.
Yeah.
So in the past, I'm just clarifying. In the past, I told you I don't think the ESPN picks up the option. I don't think they keep this exact current deal. And if they don't keep this deal, that's enough of a material change that a new grant of rights is necessary. So anyway, that's the only disagreement, and I don't think necessarily you and I have disagreed. I think there might have been a perception that we disagreed. I think ESPN will continue to broadcast ACC games for as long as the ACC is a conference for the next 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. But I just don't. I don't know. There's a lot of things at play coming up. I'm not drawing my line in the sand on anything. I look at everything with everything side-eyed right now, because even some of this stuff going on in the media, the reporting on the settlements and reporting on the rest of this, they had a lot of this worked out before we even knew. They'd been working on this stuff for 8 months, a year, whatever. And there's been dealing going on behind the scenes, and we weren't privy to any of it. So even in some of the reporting, I'm questioning the accuracy of it, because there's always a motivation. There's always an angle. And I'm at the point now that I just want to hear that things are happening. I don't believe that any of the articles are 100% true. I believe everything is spin. I just want to know what the end result. Just tell me the end result. That's all. And that goes in this next phase of realignment. When you're talking about how past realignment works, and I agree with you, and I'm not disagreeing with anything that you're saying. I do know that this ACC realignment might be a little different, and I don't mean that FSU is more valuable than Notre Dame or Clemson or North Carolina. I think we're more valuable maybe to a network, but maybe not necessary to a conference. And the conference is still in the power to. They still have to say so who they want, who they don't. But I believe we're going to be fine one way or the other. I would just rather be announcing this year than next because I'm getting really tired of realignment. Not going to lie, sir.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
about fed up with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate
it,
you
man.
letting me come on here and ramble. Okay.
Yeah, appreciate it. JD, Mr. Seminole.
Have a good one. Thanks.
It is great to hear from JD. I always love his phone calls, telling us the Florida State perspective, telling us what he is hearing, the Florida State insiders. Just want to show you real quick here. Brett McMurphy just posted Circus Sports Games of the Year current notable lines. For example, Tennessee Volunteers. I know it's very difficult for you to see this, but Tennessee -5 against the North Carolina State Wolfpack. That game's in Charlotte. I'm taking North Carolina State. Nebraska is -5 at home, week 2 against Colorado. Iowa Hawkeyes are only -2 against the Iowa State Cyclones. Holy smokes. Texas is favored by 5 over Michigan. Bama is -8 over the Evil Badgers. Kansas State -9 against Arizona. Ooh, that's a little high. LSU -10, South Carolina. Clemson -8 against the Wolfpack. Notre Dame -8 against Louisville. So there's are the lines right here. Florida State -2 at Miami. Georgia -2 at Texas. Michigan -9 against the Trojans. The game, the Buckeyes -10 over the Wolverines. The Buckeyes -1 at Oregon. Holy smokes. Notre Dame Fighting Irish -3 against Florida State. Bama is -2 at Oklahoma. So just some lines there. Of course, those lines are going to change. Those lines are absolutely going to change. Tony says Bama only 8. They'll win by 8 touchdowns. Immaculate. Nobody knows what to expect of that Iowa offense. Hard to draw a line. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Anyways, we're going to close it up. We've been on the air for 2 hours. I want to thank everybody joining us here on this Saturday. Early evening, late afternoon. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you liked our content. When you subscribe, make sure you have your notifications turned on because we can come on live at any time. We could come on live later on tonight if there's any breaking news. So make sure you have your notifications turned on. I want to thank everybody who donated to us today. And Nitwit, I thank you so very much for your incredible generosity. Drinks for everyone. Cheers. Holy smokes. Penn State, we are. Thank you for your incredible generosity. John Till, if the Big Ten got Notre Dame, does that mean Stanford goes too? No, I don't think it means. It could mean that, but I'm not willing to go down that rabbit hole today. I think Stanford would be a long shot, but thank you, John Till, for your super chat. Helmer Henderson, I'm hearing Miami could replace Clemson as Florida State's partner. I don't think anyone's replacing anybody right now. I don't think Clemson, we don't have the odds up on the board anymore. The odds have been torn down. You can't go to the betting window. That's our perception of things. There's too many variables. So Helmer Henderson, I'm hearing that Miami could replace Clemson as Florida State's partner. Thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate your generosity. Thank you so much to Mark Bowman, John Teal, Morris Simmons, becoming an early Pete Cloak and Dagger, the incredible generosity of Nitwit, Penn State, John Teal, Helmer Henderson. Thank you so very much. The incredible phone calls. Thank you once again. Except for that Mona Vision, that Mr. Buckeye. He was pushing that evil Badger stuff on me. So everybody had a wonderful phone call except for the PATC World Champion College Football Trivia. But everybody else did a fantastic job. Thank you, Nitwit. Thank you for that incredible generosity. The big super chat. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. Thank you, J Math, for coming on in. For Jeff Morgan, happy Father's Day. Tracy FSU. Happy Father's Day to my father. This is my first Father's Day without my dad. So it hurts, but the next time I see my dad, it will be forever. Please, if your father is still with you, and if you have a relationship with him, give him a hug. Let him know you love him. Do what you can to make his day feel special. I do appreciate you all coming on in. And make sure you are subscribed. Have those notifications turned on because we go where the story goes. And today, without a question, without a doubt, Petitti and Sankey have left the building. They are not inside the Holy Smokes Theater. Not now. Not now. So we'll see what happens. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, 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 you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.